Did the
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. We are missing one of our panel members having some technical difficulties here today, but hopefully they'll be on soon. Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2024 WIC Week Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion panel. I'd like to start off by thanking some of our WIC Week sponsors: Alaska National, Aldrich Associates, Bailey Construction, Cornerstone General Contractors, James King Roofing, Parker Smith and Fleek, UMC, ISI, and BECA. Today we have for you a phenomenal panel of women here to share their experiences finding success in the cisgender male-dominated construction industry while navigating gender identity and presentation. We'll be doing a Q&A session at the end of the panel, so please ask your questions in the Q&A within Zoom, and we'll pick a few to ask the panelists at the end. This event will also be recorded, so if you want to share or rewatch, the option will be available later this week. Before we get started, I would like us to take a moment to remember and honor the transgender women who have tragically lost their lives due to hate and discrimination. Their memory serves as a poignant reminder of the ongoing struggle for equality and acceptance. Additionally, we extend our heartfelt condolences to the families and loved ones of the two women who recently lost their lives on job sites. Their untimely passing underscores the importance of ensuring safe work environments for all individuals, regardless of identity.
Okay, introductions. How about I go first? My name is Jodine Hatfield, and I'm a superintendent. I've been in construction for 23 years, member of the Pile Drivers Local 196 out of Kent, Washington. Got my start as a commercial diver and launched from there. So I've been a NAWIC member for 7 years now, and I've been on the board for 2 years. It's been a great experience. If you're interested in being on the board, come join us. We need lots of help. I'm with the NAWIC Puget Sound Board in Seattle. So I also would like to give a big shout out to my NAWIC Puget Sound board members who supported us on creating this panel. And a special shout out for Janine Zari, our president, and Mercedes Gamor, our past president. I want to say thank you for all your help and assistance.
All right, Fiona, why don't you go next?
I'm Fiona Cleveland. I'm a fourth year UC Local 19 out of Washington. It's my 20th year in first year in NAWIC, and hopefully more to come.
All right, Dawn, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Don Steinwright. Currently, I'm a field foreman. I'm a carpenter by trade and have been in the trade almost 30 years now. I'd like to give a shout out to NAWIC right off the top. Sometime in 96 or 7, I was the recipient of a very generous scholarship. I was studying architecture in college, and they recognized the struggle and the challenges to get through anything in construction for women, and I'd like to thank them for that. I did eventually achieve my degree in architecture, but by then I had realized that I am way more suited towards field work, and I decided to go with what I thought would make me happy rather than what I thought would make me rich or prestigious. And it turns out if you do what you love, you end up with everything you need anyway.
All right, Dom, can you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Dom, you're muted. There you go.
Sorry, I am on a job site patching up a bunch of deck today. We've got a pour coming tomorrow. So my name is Dom Drago. I am a gender fluid intersex iron worker. I think I'm the only one in the international. It's been a saga getting the acceptance that I've needed to thrive in this field, but I've successfully done it, and I've paved the way for some other trans folks to come out within my local 86.
And my name is Claire Doherty. I am a project engineer here up in Seattle, working with Build Group. I've been in construction for about 2 years, 2.5 years now. I've been with NAWEC for a little over a year as well. So to go ahead and get started with our panel today, I just want to kick off by asking everybody what they are proud of, whether it be construction projects, accomplishments, anything else during their career. Jody, let's go ahead and start with you.
Some of my big accomplishments, I led the charge on building out 2 biolaboratories in Seattle with Turner Construction. Very proud of what I learned there and how the projects turned out. Also, of course, the convention center is on that project for almost 5 years. And I led the build out of levels 1 through 4, learned an exceptional amount of information on that project. That was pretty much my jumping off point for being a superintendent. And before that, I was a safety professional for over 10 years. And then finally, rebuilding and opening the Gina Marie Lindsay Hall. Without that happening, the IDF would not have been opened on time, on schedule. And that was a great experience working with Stone.
So you got a lot of wide-ranging experience that goes back to what really provides you a lot of insight.
Yes, yes.
John, how about you? What are your most proud experiences?
Ooh, I'm not really sure. I would say I'm proudest of still standing, I guess. 30 years and still in the field doing the work is a quite accomplishment. I've had a few injuries along the way and healed up from them, but making it this far, I think I take pride in being valued as a peer and having my knowledge respected and my opinion sought after by my coworkers. I think that makes me very proud.
There's a lot of pride in that, for sure. Fiona, go ahead.
Fiona, you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Today, I think my greatest accomplishment that I'm most proud of is the 505 building in downtown Bellevue, as far as my trade goes. Being able to be part of such a momentous change to the skyline for Bellevue. The new developments, the new technology that we released was just phenomenal. And I'm excited to see what else we can do.
Thank you. Don, what are you most proud of in your experience so far? Your career?
Well, I'm proud of the impact I've made on my brother and sister ironworkers. Like, being the first of your kind in a union, you always feel this tremendous weight on your shoulders in terms of like representing everybody who's going to be following after you. And I've had a lot of peer-to-peer conversations with other ironworkers in the field. I've sweat a whole ton on a lot of different projects. I've done a lot of light rail. I did the convention center. I did the West Seattle Bridge repair. I've done several schools. And I have to say, the name I've made for myself precedes me on job sites. It's gotten me quite a few jobs. And in terms of being someone who is gender fluid and intersex, I see a level of acceptance of that in the field that I never would have expected. And it's taken a lot of work to make that happen. On this school right over here that I'm next to building, I have ironworkers coming up to me every day, asking me questions about my experience as an ironworker and also as the person that I am. And it's very warming and invigorating.
That's definitely a lot to be proud of and creates a lot of change in the industry and a lot of great examples to follow. So kind of going off of that, what safety hazards or issues do you see based on or caused by gender-based violence and discrimination? How has that impacted your careers, or have you seen the impact of that? Go ahead and start with Fiona on this one.
Um, I've it takes away your mental focus. I've noticed and I've learned and I've experienced and have lived through a change in partners, and where they would expect you or trust you to do a project, all of a sudden now they're getting in the way. They're having you do menial tasks. For example, after I came out and I started my transition, I was attempted to be pushed off of a heavy lift, and I was given a vacuum, and I was told, well, isn't this what you wanted? I had to, show up the next day, show up the same day, and just show them up and show that I could still do it no matter what. I think it's, as far as the gender-based discrimination and violence goes, it is amplified to anyone that doesn't sit in the majority. But most importantly, I think it affects the here and now, the focus, the situational awareness. And I think once we can kind of rezone ourselves and refocus our standpoint, our own mental stability, we can overcome that. We can kind of drown it out and just focus on what we have at hand, and no longer gets, as of now, and no longer affects me, because now they're waves in the background.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on that?
Did you say Dom or Dawn? I thought you said Dom.
Dawn.
Oh, okay. I think Fiona kind of covered that. Well, construction is dangerous and it's a team sport, period. And if you are not able to concentrate on the task at hand, it could cost you your life, it could cost someone else their life, or it could maim somebody. And it's human nature. If somebody's picking at you and pestering at you and asking you a bunch of personal stuff that doesn't have anything to do with anything, it's going to distract you from what you need to be paying attention to. And I think certainly the novelty of anyone on a job site that is different draws a lot of inappropriate questioning. But I also think that there's some level that happens between partners on any job of any nature where they want to get to know you. And there's a big line there. There's a big difference. You can feel when someone is genuinely interested and when someone is trying to make you feel small. And I think that it is changing out there for sure. I've seen and witnessed a lot more respect from the younger generations that are coming in, are far more tolerant and very much more respectful, and they very much expect to be spoken to like they also are accepted how they are. So I think that it's a long time coming, but I think it's coming, and I think it makes the job a safer place for everyone if everyone has a genuine concern for their coworkers and their fellows.
Absolutely, that concern really helps everybody out. Jodine, any thoughts on this?
We can't learn if we don't feel safe. There's lots of psychological documentation saying that if we don't feel physically safe in an environment, we can't learn. And if we can't learn, you can't do construction, because you're learning all the time. You have to take in information and create whatever is on those documents and make it a real thing, a 3D object that follows all of the criteria that we're required to follow. And part of that is being able to communicate effectively with your team. Well, if your team shows up and, for whatever reason, they've figured out, one of your team members is like, well, I don't like you. And that could be something that I can't control. I'm going to be who I am, regardless of what people think of me. And I'm also going to walk with integrity. I'm going to walk I walk with my heart, and I'm going to walk with you as my teammate. Because, I talk about me, you, and we, because me, everything's about me, and we're all me's, right? But then we have you right next to me that I need to interact with and figure out how we're going to accomplish this task. And there's this whole container of we on a project. And within a project, if we don't have people that are respecting one another, working really hard to get along, because sometimes that's difficult, we're gonna have some chafing, and people are gonna feel unsafe. So I do everything I can when I go to work to prevent that from happening on the projects that I lead, to talk about, hey, we don't do that here. And people are allowed to make mistakes. It's not meaning that, like you're going to be run off because you said something a little awkward. There are obviously things that you just can't say. But the intention here is that we work as a team.
Absolutely, that teamwork aspect is critical. Dom, thoughts on this?
Yeah, in terms of gendered violence and discrimination, I've seen a lot of different violent language. People have all kinds of different takes on what they see when they look at me, right? Like people look at me and they see a gay man, they see a gay woman, they see a trans man, they see a trans woman, and all of these things that they're seeing usually come attached with some pretty violent language, right? So learning to balance my boundaries in terms of what is a teachable moment versus what is like a hard, like, no, you just can't say that, has been difficult for me. The other part of it that's been difficult for me is we've talked a lot about being able to learn when you're in like a triggered state, right? Like when you're psychologically just not feeling safe. But there's another aspect to it, and that's what are you allowed to learn? Early on in my apprenticeship, regardless of the fact that I was a hard worker, I was pretty clever, I had the makings of a good iron worker. I was given so much custodial work, picking up wire, and grabbing the tips off the bolts of the deck, cleaning up deck scrap, just custodial work, the kind of thing that does not shape you into an excellent ironworker. In terms of getting over that one, the advice I gave myself and the advice that I give other women and gender minorities in the same position is never let a man take work out of your hands. Like, a lot of men are going to try to help you by just doing it for you, right? Because they don't think you're capable. What I've always done is beat them to the point, beat them to the pile, beat them to the tool, and just go with it. Go for it. If I'm doing it wrong, I can trust them to tell me, but I can't be taught how to do my job properly if no one's going to let me do it. That's what I've experienced in terms of gendered violence and discrimination.
Thank you guys for all that. With bouncing off of that, have you ever encountered a situation where you found that finding your voice was difficult, and how did you navigate it? Fiona, let's start with you.
I would have to say, yeah. In the very beginning, it was touch and go. I wasn't sure how I wanted my voice to be. I wasn't sure how I wanted to go about things. I came into a trade where, as of right now, as far as anyone's aware, I am the only in and out trans woman in the IUEC. I would love for that to change. I would love for that statement to be wrong. And I realized in the very beginning that I wanted my voice to be the voice for those who followed or came after me. I don't want to be a leader. I just want to be someone who has the voice and has the capability to make the change necessary. So that way the people who come after me, regardless of how they identify, have the groundwork, have support structure, have all the information they need. So that way they don't have to be, outside their comfort zone. They don't have to be a voice if they don't need to be the voice. And, I started that process in the very beginning because my team that I worked with was very much, they'd pull me aside and say, I'm afraid to work with you. I'm afraid for my job now. And I had explained very intricately to each and every one of them that to be a decent human, to be respectful, to be just the person that we're all supposed to be on a job site means you don't need to worry about your job. You know, I had explained to them that this is who I am, and my steps, my path don't dictate how they should live their life, and that they're safe as long as they're a genuine person, respectful. And if they don't agree with me, that is okay, but they need to keep the comments respectful and acceptable for the job site. And I never had a bad bridge. In fact, those conversations with all those individuals on my team helped me to, one, find out that I had more support than I expected, and two, gave me a encouragement because they all saw that and they pushed me to be better. And I think that's honestly the best thing is just we were able to support each other, and I haven't shut up since.
That's amazing. It goes to show how important support of your community is. Jodine, what are your thoughts here?
So, I think I already, but that's all right. Gender-based violence and discrimination. You know, some of the moments that I've had in my career, I've really struggled with. Wow, did you just say that to me? And how I respond, because if I respond in a big way and I allow that angry side, my big old sledgehammer to come out, my double jack out of my toolbox, it's not going to help me. And it's taken me, you know, years to figure that out, that that's not the best tool, even when someone's being a jerk, even when someone says something inappropriate, like, we don't let the girls work at night because we don't want them to get hurt and we don't feel like they're going to be safe. And my response to that was a deep breath. And then I said, I want to be treated like everyone else. That's all I expect here. And out of that, I got my first opportunity to be a superintendent. And, you know, that's one of those moments of like, it could have gone either way. And I was being called out. And I don't know if this person was really aware of like how offensive what they were saying was. And it's those unintentional biases that we talk about a lot, that, you know, like, well, I didn't realize, you know, using the word girl can be offensive, or I didn't realize using the wrong gender pronoun can be offensive. And in my case, you know, I've been a commercial diver, and I've been expected to be, I have been the only female member of the crew for the majority of my career. That means I'm the only woman on the deck. That means there's no restrooms for me to use. And there were some gender comments and things about, you know, because we have to disrobe on the deck, you know, and get into a chamber and clean up, you know, and all that, so we don't blow the chamber up. And there were some times where it was hard, but I stuck with, I'm in this job because I love what I do. I'm not here for any of those people. I'm here for me. That's that me I'm talking about. That's where that comes from. I'm here to make my career work. And I hope that we can all join each other and making everybody's career work, regardless of who you are, what you represent, what you bring to the table. You can learn skills, and we can do that by creating a team.
Absolutely. Dom, how have you found your voice as you've grown in your career? Dom.
All right. Finding my voice. Let's see. A lot of the motivation behind me speaking up and speaking out is the fact that, you know, before I was in this union, I was waitressing up in the gay neighborhood in my city, Seattle. And I would bounce from bar to bar to bar, because every time I would come out as gender fluid and switch around my pronouns and you know, try to make myself be heard, be respected, I'd get a layoff. Seasonal layoff. Oh, we just don't need you anymore. Oh, train your replacement really quick and get out, that kind of thing. So when I got into union construction, unionized ironwork, The thing that really keyed me into speaking up was the amount of support I received from my hall. I want to say the first job I went out to, I show up, I'm a first week apprentice, I know nothing. It's rebar, which sounds simple, but it's not when you've never done it a day in your life. Anyways, the contractor calls up my hall and says, "Hey, Dom's gender is like weird. We don't like it. Um, please send us another apprentice." And the business agent at the time, his name was Jeff Glockner, he took the call, and I cannot quote him in polite language as to what he said to this contractor, but essentially it was grow up, get with the times, give him a week, and if you don't like how he's working, then we'll send you another apprentice. Well, they gave me a week, and they gave me a very brutal week, and I blew their expectations out of the water. So I have this support from my hall. I'm very lucky to have that. But I feel like speaking up and speaking out on behalf of trans, non-binary, gender fluid, and intersex people is extremely important to me, because every little ripple that I make on a job site and every stereotype that I break in terms of just being focused on the work, about the work, and just about business, that support that I have in the hall is now extending out into people in the field. Like when I got to this job site, half the foremen here are people that I've worked with before. And so people know my pronouns. People mess up my pronouns and then apologize and get on the same page with me. People ask me how I want to be addressed. And that has taken 8 years of work. But by exercising my voice, growing my voice, utilizing my voice, I've kind of laid the groundwork for the next trans or non-binary or gender fluid or intersex person after me in this union to do less work, less of that emotional labor, so that they can just focus on being an exceptional iron worker, like any of us could be. That's been my drive in terms of utilizing my voice and speaking up and speaking out.
Sounds like you've done a phenomenal job utilizing that to, as you said, lay the groundwork and really help other people be able to not have to do as much work there, which is phenomenal. Don, I've heard you talk in the past about the art of going to war without going to war. Can you kind of talk about that and how it ties into this using your voice?
Yeah, so there's an ancient book called The Art of War, and I read that at some point in my life. I guess because I was having a lot of conflict everywhere I went, pretty much. At work in particular, it was hard as an apprentice to walk in my own integrity, if you will. I did my apprenticeship in the Midwest, and I'll just leave it at that. It was pretty clear that they didn't want me out there because I was in period. But had I openly, well, let it be known that I was a gay woman, I'm pretty sure that there would have been a lot more hazing and a lot worse, whatever you want to call how I was treated. But when I got my journeyman card and when I moved westward out of the place I was born, and I felt competent and capable as a carpenter, I either consciously or subconsciously made a choice to just like, this is who I am, you need my help or you don't. You know, and that has worked out pretty good for me. I haven't often had trouble finding my voice. As a matter of fact, I've had trouble holding my voice on occasion, and it's cost me more than one job. But I feel like when a door shuts, something better has always been around the corner for me. Now, the thing about The Art of War, and it's been a while since I read the book, so forgive me, but there were some distinctions that still stick. One of them that I hold on to is that the best general wins without ever fighting. There are no casualties. Some decision is made or some change of behavior happens, and nobody even knows there was a war happening. The other thing I try to remember that has been very useful to me is that it is often better to leave your enemy, if you will, or your opposition, leave them a back door, leave them a way out of a conflict without having to humiliate them or destroy them. If they can save face and come to some mutual agreement, everybody wins. And then somebody told me this recently. I think this is a quote from Ben Franklin, maybe. One way to eliminate an enemy is to make them a friend. And I think it's already been spoken to that if you can, I guess, if I can control myself well enough when I feel like I'm being assaulted or offended to open the door to some meaningful dialogue, that maybe I can educate somebody and change their opinion of me at least, which may have broader implications if they are, just basically existing under some inherited cultural expectations or prejudices that they don't even know they have. Like at the root of it, I gotta tell, if I'm being real honest, there've been some jobs where I was on a job with somebody that just, just grated like nails on a chalkboard to me, and I would just bad vibe off of them or whatever. But after 2 or 3 months working with this guy, usually, that guy lets his guard down one day and he becomes superhuman. He just becomes he starts sharing with me about his problems with his teenage daughter that he doesn't understand anymore. And the tears start coming out of his eyes. And now suddenly I've been carrying all this anger towards somebody. And what I'm looking at is a human being trying to get by in this life and be happy and make a living and provide for his family. Kind of like what I'm doing out there, right? I'm just out there trying to make a living. And so the wars don't always have to be bloody and long. They can be so subtle that it's never known it ever happened. And you end up on the other side of it with an ally.
Absolutely. A lot of really great experiences there with creating community and using your words to build each other up and build yourself up. With that, how do you introduce the concept and idea of creating community within your workforce? Very much ties in with the previous question, but a little bit more. Johnny, you want to kick this one off?
As far as developing a community, my company has a Pride ERG. I partake in that ERG frequently, monthly, and I use that opportunity to share with those in the company that haven't been educated of the existence of ERGs as a whole. So I've educated myself on what ERGs that we have that are available to which demographic. And so when I'm discussing our Pride ERG specifically, I can tailor the conversation to those that I'm speaking with and then educate them on the ERGs that might be more beneficial to them. And what I've noticed is it's developed more of a understanding that, hey, we have support. Hey, we can support each other. Hey, there's all this extra. The company's not just a company. Now the company has resources to help us. And it's gone from people calling me a company person to people understanding that I'm not doing this for a company. I'm doing this for the trade. I'm doing this for the people, my brothers and sisters in the trades. And all I care about is what's best for them. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to necessarily be specifically on the paycheck, but the mental health, the emotional health, the physical health. I have a coworker, did not realize we had something as simple as eyeglass reimbursement, or the company pays for safety glasses for prescription. But because I've been involved with this and because I've taken the time to educate myself on what we have, I was able to present that to them. And it shows that, maybe they can pass that along down the line. And the same thing with the ERGs and same thing with the support programs we all have in place. And I find that it brings more of a camaraderie as opposed to everyone out to get their own.
Absolutely. Dom, how have you seen this play out in the field similarly?
Oh, you mean creating community in the field?
Yes.
Well, a lot of my community in the field, since I'm still kind of the only one of me in the Ironworkers Union, comes from being just like violently visible. Like I go to the rod patch with a full face of makeup on, I wear lip color while I'm bolting up. And I do that with this voice, with this body. Um, I've been on all kinds of hormones, so my voice, the shape of my body, everything, it's very visible, right? I can't really go anywhere. If I go to a men's restroom at an airport, people are gonna be going when I walk out of it. If I go to the ladies' room, same deal. There's no hiding it for me. And in terms of that creating community, well, people walk up to me with sometimes very uncomfortable questions, like they're uncomfortable, or sometimes questions that frankly make me uncomfortable. Um, and I get to kind of play the role of educator. It's not necessarily fun. There's a lot of hand holding because despite what men will tell you, they have very big feelings, very, very big feelings, often on the job site. Um, And by being visible, by being open, by answering those questions or turning them around on their head a little bit, like I get a lot of the what's in your pants questions, and I get a lot of and I like to turn that around with um, I don't know, would you like it if I asked you that? Make it a teachable moment. I've created kind of a nice brother and sisterhood here in the Ironworkers Union. There are still a very vocal minority of ironworkers who I'd say are completely unsupportive of me and would love to see me out of this union. But by and large, most ironworkers either are excited to learn more. Often they have like trans or non-binary or gender fluid or intersex family members that they want to know more about. They come to me and they ask me these questions that they're afraid to ask their family, and it's heartwarming as cuss to me because you know I get to be that resource now, and not just for them but for their family too. I've answered these questions for my family, and it's a painful spot to be in. um but that's netted me some community. My hard work has netted me some community for all the guys who just don't care and have that like what you do in your own time is your own thing mentality. They're perfectly fine with me too now, just because they've seen that I'm an iron worker first and a trans and gender fluid educator second. And that's fine with me. I like to flex both, but visibility is the key factor to making that happen. Not being afraid to be in the closet, not being afraid to rock femininity or masculinity or fluidity or androgyny. I mean, shoot, my hard hat here is lots of sapphic pride stickers on one side and then some gay pride stickers on the other. I let people know. And for the most part, people don't mind it at all.
Hey Tom, I have the same experience. My wife says I have no blend. I walk in the room and everybody's like, "Yep, right there. There's a queer." So some of the things that I've done to create community is I've really worked for equal access to resources on the project. One of the big battles we have as women and trans people is that we don't have access to a restroom that is for us. And the problem with that is they get really nasty. And there are rules that are supposed to be followed. And every single job I've had, every single project I've ever been on, I have to have a conversation with about, do we meet the code for quantity of women's restrooms? Do we meet the standard for distance of travel? Do you have to travel 6 stories to go find a Santa can that has a lock on it so that it has some resources in there that women do need? does it, you know, often I hear like about the cost and those kinds of things, but these are codes that actually are documented by L&I, also documented by OSHA, that if you have more than one woman or one woman on the project, you have 10 men, you got to have a male Santa Can and a female, and that could be a non-gender binary one as well. And you've got to distribute them. You've got to, you know, stock them with the adequate resources. And I'm going into this because it's so often forgotten. It's something that's being fought in the legislature here in Washington State, that we have the resources that we need so that we are treated like humans. At the end of the day, we are all humans. And I want to say, I have never been told not to go into a Santa Can that's for a woman on a project, but I have been told thousands of times, do not go in that bathroom. That's for a woman. That is not you. And usually the rouge is up when I turn around and speak. That's when people realize who I am. But it takes that. And it's important that people see who I am on the project. I am a superintendent. I'm a safety professional, a safety manager. And then I'm a woman. You know, I've been the first female superintendent for a few companies, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I have these skills. I'm here because I know how to run a schedule. And I'm here because I can put together a plan to put a project together and get to that finish line and work with the inspections and all the tasks that you have to do as a superintendent. And I'm also queer. And, you know, I talk about that openly. When I give orientations, sometimes I often work in, hey, with me and my wife were at this location and we had this experience, and talk about safety and how that connects, how my life connects to your life. And that creates community, that we're, at the end of the day, we're really very much alike. We may be a little different, but we really all have something in common that we can celebrate and that we can connect upon.
Absolutely, there's always a common thread to be found. Dawn, how have you created community in your career?
Trying to be honest about who I am. Trying to accept people for who they are. I think very clearly that the tone of a job is established by the management, and being in field leadership now in a small way, I make it very clear that everyone on a crew that I'm part of has an equal voice, that we're not going to tolerate, you know, any of the disrespectful things. And I don't know. If you want to be a friend, if you want to have a friend, be a friend. If you want to build community, offer something to the community. Just stand on your principles and be steady. Like, I'm not perfect, and my wife is very happy to tell me when I'm exhibiting or sharing biases that I'm not even aware are real. Like, I don't know how many times in the last 3 years I've heard, that's racist. And I'm like, really? All right, well, let me think about this. Maybe that is offensive to somebody, or maybe that phrase or word comes from something in the past that's hateful that I inherited culturally or linguistically from my region that I came up in. Or like, we carry so many expectations from other people in the world that are often met, but often not met. And I think it's fair to give somebody a chance to make their own statement. So I try not to prejudge people. I have often been prejudged, and it's uncomfortable and it causes conflict. And so I try to carry that with me. But it's, I mean, the world is changing. Things that were not okay to say, things that were okay to say are now not okay to say. Ideas that were sort of taboo are now being openly discussed. And I think that's a good thing, in that it allows for everyone to have a voice, and particularly on a job site, since like that's the focus of what we're really talking about here. You get more ideas, you get better solutions. If you got people that are afraid to say anything because they're afraid that somebody's going to look at them while they're talking, or they're feeling uncomfortable about the general the vibe at work, or how it feels, that's going to stifle them, and they may have the best idea to solve the problem that we're stumped on. And so trying to encourage everybody to be comfortable enough and feel safe enough that they can contribute on a job. That's how you get community. That's how you get a good team. And that's how you get people that will follow you from one job to the next. That's how you succeed in construction.
That team aspect is absolutely critical. Springboarding off of that, once you have a community or once you have people around you that you would like to listen to, how have you used your voice, connections, or position to uplift other women in the industry? Start with Jodine.
Well, I'm a member of NAWIC. That's a big way that, but that wasn't what I did in the beginning. In the beginning, I was that person who would go toe to toe with the guy that was harassing the woman next to me. And I usually won that argument, not physically, but just with my head, my brains. That's one way. Another way is I was actually called off the list when I was and I was a diving female apprentice, and that was the call off the list. I have no idea where I was, but I was not at the top. But I was good enough to be on that list, right? And with the tests that we had to do to get in. And from that, I decided years ago that once that happened to me, that my career came forward as a result of my name being called off that list, that I was going to do the same thing for another woman, which I had the opportunity to do that when I was at the convention center, and she just journeyed out. So that is super cool. That's a big way I give back. Another way is, I've been participating in like forums and teaching sessions where, we have a sisters meeting and we talk about the project and teach different aspects of the project that each one of those trades, and all trades are open. I'm a carpenter pilebuck. However, as a superintendent, I have had to figure out finishes. As a pilebuck, my finishing tool is a chainsaw. If it's within a quarter of an inch, it's good enough. However, that's not acceptable for the work that I've been managing for the last 8 years, almost 8 years. So, teaching how to use the software programs that we manage our documents with, like Procore and FieldWire, et cetera. How to use Bluebeam. Bluebeam is an excellent tool to do markups on, but a lot of people don't have access to it. So what I do is I spend a lot of time teaching people how to do markups on their phone with the resources that come free with your iPhone, and how to mark up a photo. And if you use this extra step and holding your finger down, it makes these cool little shapes, and it looks like it just came out of Bluebeam. You can even put up a cloud or a diamond or whatever it is. But sharing knowledge. And when I was an apprentice, that wasn't something that happened a lot. That people would say to me, "Well, I don't want to teach you how to do that. You're going to take my job." Well, no, that's really not what's going on here. If we grow as a team, we all have an opportunity to succeed. And our goal at the end of the day is, yes, it is to make money and fill our retirement and have benefits. But the bigger thing is that we complete that project and we meet the needs and the desires and the ask of the owner. And we do it within, the timeline and the price, and then everybody, including our owner, looks good. And that's because you're only as good as your last job in construction. So if your last job looks great, you just keep chumming along, you get the next job.
Absolutely. Dom, let's hear from you next.
Okay, so let me get this straight. The question is, how do we uplift other women on the job sites with our voice?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, intersectionality is key. That's the first point I want to make. When I got into the union, I'll be blunt, none of the cis white men wanted anything to do with me. They would not teach me the trade. I learned the trade from Hispanic men and women, Indigenous men and women, and Black men and women, because even though I am white, they related to me having a body that is less than, the same way that society views their bodies as less than. And they were the ones who took the time to uplift me in this trade and teach me the tools, teach me how to function as an iron worker, to the point that within a year, all of a sudden these white guys want something to do with me. And all these white guys start talking to me like I'm a white guy. And if you know what that means, when people talk to you, when all the other people are out of the room, it means you hear a lot of racist dialogue. And for me, it was pretty simple to shut that down, and to make them uncomfortable and to make it known that that would not be tolerated by me. And that's intersectionality right there. If we as queer or as trans or gender fluid or non-binary people are not thriving, you can bet that people of color and indigenous people are also not thriving, because where there's one ism or obia, you're going to find all of them very typically. So I spend a lot of my time on job sites when I'm working with apprentices, regardless of gender, prioritizing time for men of color, women of color with my apprentices. Because I know there are 50 guys on the job site that are ready to teach the white kid how to do his job. But for the rest of us who have bodies that are less than, that resource might not necessarily be there. Now, the other thing that I do in terms of uplifting my community specifically is I've partnered with a local LGBTQ advocacy group. I've done one career fair specifically for queer and trans people. I'm doing another one at the end of March. And the importance of that is, if you know anything about the election cycle right now, queer and especially trans people are the hot button issue. Like our rights are very much up for debate and the hot topic. And a lot of laws have passed that have criminalized us, criminalized our children, criminalized our housing, made it legal to discriminate against us on the basis of religion in certain states. And people from those states are showing up in my state, Washington, with just what they can fit in their car, what they can fit in a backpack, the clothes on their back, and nothing else. And it's important to me to create and carve out a place in unionized construction with good health care, with a wage that can afford you rent for these people, because we will be seeing more and more and more of them here on the West Coast before this gets better.
Absolutely, there's a lot of change coming and being pushed, whether it be one way or the other. And that intersectionality, that's really critical. Fiona, how have you used your voice to uplift?
It goes back to what I was mentioning earlier about participating with the company ERGs. So one of the other ones that we have at Otis is Forward. It's designed for all the sisters in the trade, and it is a program that we use to have quarterly meets and greets and teaching moments and education moments. And what I've done is I've taken that, and every time we have a new sister or gender non-conforming individual who's come into the trade or come into the company, I have a conversation with them like, okay, cool. Did you know about XYZ? Did you know about these resources? Did you know about these training seminars or educational opportunities? I haven't had the chance to really have that conversation with absolutely everyone, especially in my company, but I would love to continue doing it. So that way I know that, at the end of the day, they can go forward. And if they see a new sister, they'll be like, boom, here's the information you need. Honestly, it just, it all goes back to just not being quiet. It's making friends every chance we get in the regards of breaking down barriers, breaking down the misunderstandings. And so that way, when I'm off of a site and someone else is on that site, they'll remember our interactions as, hey, she said XYZ. Maybe we should think about that with this next person, this next incident or interaction. And it's more the lasting connections, the lasting memories that I would hope leave people with, let's go with a good taste in their mouth, so that way they don't feel put off, or they don't feel dismayed or feel angry at me, and they take it on the next person. So it goes back to just keeping my voice going and just sharing the resources.
Absolutely. Dawn, do you want to wrap up this question?
I don't have a whole lot to add. Those are all good ways that people are using to build up the sisters in the trades. Where possible, take leadership roles. Like break the stereotypes by being exceptional at your job. Make yourself available to mentor and tutor and help out the people that have no experience in what you might be good at. Continue to keep learning so you can broaden your own skill set. Take leadership roles in your union and be part of the e-board if possible, so that people that are just coming in will see that and they will assume that is normal. That won't be something new and unusual to them. They will come through the trade from the bottom up, seeing women making decisions, representing the membership body, and they will expect that there should be women in those roles if they see women in those roles. So those are a few of the things that I've done in my career to try to I guess normalize our presence, if you will. And then all the trades are about, your network, make yourself available and stay in touch with people now and then. Find reasons to get together, like NAWIC or like women's conference in another state or something like that. Just stay connected as much as you can and be there when somebody needs to reach out and help them how you're able.
You'll have absolutely phenomenal examples of that, of supporting other women. So we are nearing our time limit today, so we're going to move to a Q&A question. Out of respect for everybody's time, we'll just keep it quick with one. So Kala Davy has asked, what advice would you give to Gen Zers that identify as LGBTQIA+ to start a career in construction? How best to overcome industry stereotypes that construction is only for cis, white, Caucasian males? Anybody feel free to hop on this question.
I'd like to hop on this one. My advice is be yourself and be about the work. Be open. I know a male pansexual apprentice. Like, I just worked on a bridge job with him, and he's an excellent worker, and he's very open about it and extremely sassy about it. Like, he was calling the foreman daddy, and it was freaking adorable. And everybody just rolled with it because of how excellent of a worker he was. It's hard to get that foot in the door initially. Like me, I was very much trying to be hyper masculine, butch, one of the boys, but not really. When I first got in. And then when you start to see more and more of that acceptance, it's easier to open up and be your full self on a job site and have fun and rib the guys with your queerness. Honestly, learning to get people to laugh. Not at you, but with you and at themselves, at their own ignorance, is huge. If you can take a silly, ridiculous, intrusive, or even offensive comment or question that gets flung at you in the middle of the brake shack and make somebody look like a fool for asking it or saying it and get the group to laugh, you've diffused the situation, you've diffused your queerness, and you've broken that stereotype of the sensitive, hyper fragile snowflake queer LGBTQIA construction worker who's here to get your job and get you fired. No. Everybody who knows queer people knows that we are strong as steel. And if we can get people to kind of roll with that, that's the advice that I would give. Get people to chuckle, get people to scratch their heads, get people to open up to the fact that we belong here.
Anyone else have anything to add to that?
I thought that was awesome.
All right, so with that, we will wrap up our panel today. Thank you so much for everybody for joining us and for asking questions and being engaged. And a special thank you to the panelists for sharing your experience and insight. We really appreciate everybody taking the time. We see that change is hard, but change is being made and progress is being made. So just keep supporting each other and standing up for forward progress. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.